Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina, Part 6, in which all our protagonists find the thin veneer of tranquility in their lives, tested by family and friends, with farcical and tragic consequences. Chapter 23. Dolly was about to get into bed when Anna came in dressed for the night. During the day, Anna had several times begun talking about her intimate affairs, and had stopped each time after a few words. "Later, when we're alone, we'll discuss everything. There's so much I must tell you," she had said. Now they were alone, and Anna did not know what to talk about. She sat by the window, looking at Dolly and going through all that seemingly inexhaustible store of intimate conversation, and found nothing. It seemed to her just then that everything had already been said. "Well, how's Kitty?" she said, sighing heavily and looking guiltily at Dolly. "Tell me the truth, Dolly. Is she angry with me?" "Angry? No," Darya Alexandrovna said, smiling. "But she hates me? Despises me?" "Oh, no. But you know such things don't get forgiven." Yes, said Anna, turning away and looking out of the open window. "But it wasn't my fault. And whose fault was it? What does fault mean? Could it have been otherwise? What do you think? Could you not be Steva's wife?" "I really don't know. But tell me this." Yes, but we haven't finished about Kitty. Is she happy? He's a wonderful man, they say." "To say he's wonderful isn't enough. I don't know a better man." "I'm so glad. I'm very glad. To say he's a wonderful man isn't enough," she repeated. Dolly smiled. "But tell me about yourself. I must have a long talk with you. I spoke with—" Dolly did not know what to call him. She felt awkward calling him either the Count or Alexei Kirillich. "With Alexei," Anna said. "I know you did. But I wanted to ask you directly, what do you think about me, about my life?" "How can I say so suddenly? I really don't know." "No, tell me all the same. You see my life, but don't forget you're seeing us in the summer, on a visit, and that we're not by ourselves. But we came in early spring. We lived completely alone, and we shall live alone, and I don't wish for anything better than that. But imagine me living alone without him. Alone, and it will happen. Everything tells me that it will be repeated often, that he will spend half his time away from home," she said, getting up and moving closer to Dolly. "Of course," she interrupted Dolly, who was about to object. "Of course, I can't keep him by force. And I'm not keeping him now. There's a race today. His horses are in it. Off he goes. I'm very glad. But think of me. Imagine my position." "Why speak of that?" she smiled. "So what did he talk with you about?" "He talked about what I myself want to talk about, and it's easy for me to be his advocate, about whether it might be possible, whether you couldn't—" Darya Alexandrovna faltered. "Improve your situation. Put it right. You know how I look at it, but all the same, if possible, you should get married." "Meaning a divorce?" said Anna. "You know, the only woman who came to see me in Petersburg was Betsy Zverskoy. Do you know her? Alphonse et la femme, la plus depravée que existe. She had a liaison with Tushkevich, deceiving her husband in the nastiest way. And she told me that she didn't want to know me as long as my situation was irregular. Don't think I'm comparing. I know you, my darling, but I happen to remember. Well, so what did he tell you? She repeated. He said he suffers for you and for himself. You may say it's egoism, but it's such legitimate and noble egoism. He would like, first of all, to legitimate his daughter, and to be your husband, to have the right to you. What wife, what slave can be so much a slave as I am? In my situation, she interrupted gloomily. And the main thing he wants you not to suffer. That's impossible. Well, and the most legitimate thing, he wants your children to have a name. What children? Said Anna, not looking at Dolly and narrowing her eyes. Annie, and the future. You can rest easy about that. I won't have any more children. How can you say you won't have any more? I won't, because I don't want it. And despite all her excitement, Anna smiled, noticing the naive look of curiosity, astonishment, and horror on Dolly's face. The doctor told me after my illness. It can't be, said Dolly, wide-eyed. For her it was one of those discoveries, the consequences and conclusions of which are so enormous that for the first moment one feels only that it is impossible to grasp it all, but that one must think about it a great, great deal. This discovery, which suddenly explained for her all those formerly incomprehensible families with only 1 or 2 children, called up in her so many thoughts, reflections, and contradictory feelings that she was unable to say anything, and only looked at Anna with wide-eyed astonishment. This was the very thing she had dreamed of that morning on her way there, but now, on learning that it was possible, she was horrified. She felt it was a much too simple solution of a much too complicated question. N'est-ce pas immoral? Was all she said after a pause. Why? Consider, I have to choose between the two, either to become pregnant, meaning ill, or to be a friend, a companion for my husband, or the same as my husband, Anna said in a deliberately superficial and frivolous tone. Yes, Darla Alexandrovna repeated, listening to the very same arguments she had produced for herself, and finding them no longer convincing. For you, for others, Anna said, as if guessing her thoughts, there may still be doubt, but for me, understand, I'm not a wife. He loves me as long as he loves me, and what then? How am I to keep his love? With this? She held her white arms out in front of her stomach. Thoughts and memories came crowding into Darya Alexandrovna's head with extraordinary quickness, as happens in moments of excitement. I didn't make myself attractive to Stiva, she thought. He left me for other women, and the first one he betrayed me for did not keep him by being always beautiful and gay. He dropped her and took another. And is this how Anna is going to attract and keep Count Vronsky? If he's looking for that, he'll find clothes and manners that are still more gay and attractive. And however white, however beautiful her bare arms, however attractive her full bosom, her flushed face against that dark hair, he'll find still better ones, as my disgusting, pathetic, and dear husband seeks and finds them. Dolly made no answer and only sighed. Anna noticed her sigh, which showed disagreement, and went on. She had more arguments in store, such strong ones that it was impossible to answer them. You say it's not good. But you must consider, she went on. You forget my situation. How can I want children? I'm not talking about the suffering. I'm not afraid of that, but think, who will my children be? Unfortunate children who will bear another man's name. By their very birth, they'll be placed in the necessity of being ashamed of their mother, their father, their birth. That's just why you must get divorced. But Anna did not hear her. She wanted to voice the same arguments with which she had so often persuaded herself. Why have I been given a reason if I don't use it so as not to bring unfortunate children into the world? She looked at Dolly, but went on without waiting for an answer. I would always feel guilty before those unfortunate children, she said. If they don't exist, at least, they won't be unfortunate, and if they're unfortunate, I alone am to blame. These were the same arguments Darya Alexandrovna had produced for herself, but now she listened to them and could not understand them. How can she be guilty before beings who don't exist, she wondered. And suddenly a thought came to her. Could it be better in any possible case for her favorite, Grisha, if she had never existed? And it seemed so wild to her, so strange, that she shook her head to scatter this whirling confusion of mad thoughts. No, I don't know. It's not good, she merely said with a squeamish look on her face. Yes, but don't forget what you are and what I am. And besides, Anna added, as if despite the wealth of her arguments and the poverty of Dolly's, she still admitted that it was not good. Don't forget the main thing, that I'm not in the same situation now as you are. For you, the question is whether you do not want to have any more children, and for me it's whether I want to have them. And that is a big difference. You see, I can't want it in my situation. Darya Alexandrovna did not object. She suddenly felt she had become so distant from Anna that there were questions between them which they would never agree on, and of which it was better not to speak. If you enjoy this format, please leave a like and subscribe and return tomorrow for the next chapter.